The hosts of Bracketology are experts in nothing. They claim no advanced knowledge or profound insights. Instead, they are just three judgmental idiots who really like to bloviate their own opinions whenever given the chance. Take what they have to say with a grain of salt, or not at all. You'll probably be better off that way.
All right, gentlemen, the purpose of this podcast is clearly to debate things. We do it every single week. And typically there's a large bracket and we go through all that. But in this moment, there's something that we need to discuss. We need to come to a consensus because it's making life a living hell for all three of us. And we need to figure it out. I don't know if we need to air our business out quite like this on the podcast, but here we are. Here's what we're going to do. Because some of us are wrong about some shit and it's real fucking annoying. Okay? Are you with me on this? Are we ready to come to a consensus? Can we agree first before I even get into it that we are going to come to a consensus?
I will agree on with one note.
Okay.
We all have to say at the same time, no matter what happens, I love you.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I love you guys, and that's why we need to come to this consensus. It's important.
Like how you didn't even wait for my response.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. No, Matt made a good point, and I wanted to get out of the way because I'm coming in aggressive. So he's right. I need to tone it down a little bit. I need to acknowledge I do love you guys, and that's why this is important. Dan, go ahead. Are you prepared?
I can't say that we'll come to a consensus, but I can say that I will love you guys regardless of how wrong you are, Scott.
All right, so this is all coming from a place of love. The three of us need to fucking land on one single platform for us to share funny videos from. Because here's the thing.
Jesus.
Dan loves to sit on the toilet and scroll through Facebook Reels and then send us that shit all the time. Matt does not have a Facebook. He's not on that platform. He cannot see them. Matt loves to sit on the toilet and scroll through his Reels on Instagram as well. And he sends those to us. Dan does not. He does have an Instagram, but he does not know how to log into it. You send them to the Bracketology Instagram because I get those notifications. I have an Instagram. I don't care to use it. I scroll through TikTok, send them to you guys. Matt does not have TikTok. Dan does, but again, does not frequently use it. We need to agree on one platform for our funny videos.
Okay. I have an argument. I have a thought. I have an argument and a solution. Okay. That is, I dislike social media. Generally speaking. That's why I don't have a Facebook. I don't want the TikTok because.
Okay, but
hold on.
Go ahead. Let
me get it out. Because of things, and because of that, my suggestion is that both you get on board with Instagram. Like, it's not that it's the only one I use.
Instagram is a social media.
I know, it's the only one that I use.
TikTok is not a social media. It is an entertainment platform. Instagram is where people is a place where people can go to socialize and have conversations back and forth. TikTok is an entertainment platform. I'm fine with you not having a Facebook because you don't want to be on social media, but that doesn't make any sense because Instagram is also a social media. TikTok is not.
The way that I see it, it is, and it is owned. It is owned by people that I don't want to share my information with.
Instagram is owned by Facebook.
I know. I also don't want to share my information with them, but
you do.
Late. It already happened.
You are. Currently.
That one's already the cat has flown out of the owl's nest. You know what I mean?
What?
Like
what? You continue to feed as you build their algorithm by the things you like and share. You are continuing to build Facebook's. You're feeding into the artificial intelligence that is Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, you're already contributing to artificial intelligence.
Says the guy who sends all the Facebook links.
Look, I get it. I can't get rid of Facebook. It's just,
I'm not asking you to get rid of Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get rid of Facebook. I use it too.
The problem is that I do not. I feel like I spend too much time on my phone as it is. Like I don't even want to know what my screen time is. So I don't want to add something else to that. So much like Matt, like I just don't want to add another thing.
But you're not adding. You have a TikTok.
Yeah, and I like that's what I'm gonna say is if you both come to an agreement on like TikTok, I'll start using TikTok. I'll also have an Instagram. So if you come to a conclusion that Instagram is what you want to go with. I'll start using Instagram.
If you're willing to sit there and scroll mindlessly through videos on Facebook,
Yeah.
what's the difference between the screen time that you spend there and the screen time you would spend mindlessly scrolling them on TikTok? It's the same screen time.
Look, I'm trying to be like adaptive here. I'm saying I have all three options. I will use any one that you two land on.
Well, Facebook's out. Like, that one's pretty...
says the person that is using the app that's also owned by Facebook.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I would have to reactivate my Facebook.
Yeah.
That is connected with a bunch of people that I don't want to connect with.
You could create a new Facebook.
That's
without
true.
those pre-existing connections.
That's true. That is possible.
That is a lot of work.
No, it's not.
But I understand where you're coming from, because again, when we're talking about scale of social media and not wanting to be involved in it, Facebook is the social, like, there's literally a movie called The Social Network, right? It's where people go to share little bits about their lives and pictures and all that stuff. And there's people out there that you don't want to connect with. That's going to be the primary place you're going to see them. I can understand wanting to avoid Facebook.
Younger people
but you know
aren't
what?
using Facebook at all, by the way.
I'm pretty sure he's not talking about younger people, you creep. But Instagram is also a platform where people do that. Those same people that are on Facebook sharing those pictures are going to share them on Instagram too. You know what you know what I don't see on TikTok? You know what I never see on TikTok? People I know, except for my wife and Mikey. At Ike Taco 99. He's a streamer on Twitch. You should check him out. But anyway, that's it. I mean, I see a lot of stand-up comedians. I see a lot of dogs get the zoomies and run through screen doors. I see a great TikTok series about the best places to go poop in Disney World. That guy is doing a public service. But I don't see people from my past that I don't want to connect with. Period.
Yeah, look, I have meticulously built my Instagram Reels algorithm to show me funny video of animal, followed by people getting scared, followed by weird accidents on like BMX and stuff and parkour, followed by very attractive people that I enjoy watching talk, followed by the animals being funny again.
It's easy to create that algorithm in TikTok again, and we can help you. I can send you the videos that you can like, and you can repost, and you can follow those accounts. You could have that whole algorithm rebuilt within like an hour and a half.
This feels like a lot more of a, hey, let me force you to get TikTok, then let's go into this to get to an even
consensus.
But the thing is, in our current reality,
choose what I want.
In our current reality, there's always at least one of the three of us that is excluded from the conversations. We have a shared Discord, and we're like, hey, watch this funny thing. And one of the three of us is like, I can't see that. Every time.
One of the three of us is like, I'm just going to do it anyway just to piss Matt off until he gets TikTok. So this is malintent. All right.
But for entertainment purposes.
If you specifically want us to become or come to a consensus on a platform to watch stupid 30-second to a minute-long videos and share them with each other, I suggest you start using Instagram more. And Dan gets one.
Dan has one. He just needs to figure out how to log into it again.
Yeah, like I don't know when I created it. I don't know why I created it. I don't know how I created it. But it is created. I know it exists. I'll just need to figure out the login deets.
Well,
I'm pretty sure that one of the only... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a quick suggestion. You could just make a new one.
Like you could with Facebook.
But
I'm pretty sure one of the only like 3 pictures I've ever posted on Instagram is of Dan holding an ice cream cone from the ice cream truck that came by his apartment. And I'm pretty sure I tagged him in it in Instagram. I think.
It's a possibility.
So we're not going to come to a consensus because the two of you are too damn stubborn.
But again, Instagram is not. I enjoy. Allow me this. I enjoy the simplicity of TikTok. Right. Yes, there's their said image of Dan with ice cream from the ice cream truck. I enjoy the simplicity of TikTok, right? Instagram, you're getting slideshows of pictures from users. You have the stories, all the little circle things across the top. I don't need all that. I just want to be able to open a single app and be immediately fed the videos that my algorithm says that I need. Instagram has too many additional hoops to jump through. And Facebook is carrying baggage.
Bro. It's a single button to get to the reels.
It's a single button more than what I want to have to press.
Okay, so can you and I, in arbitration, can you and I determine that Dan, as the third party, the objective party, selects either TikTok or Instagram for all of us?
I'm with you. Do you agree? Okay, fine.
I will agree.
Okay.
I will agree. As long as it's not Facebook, I will do what Dan says.
I'm fine with that. I'm okay with us eliminating Facebook from the table because perhaps coming back to bite him in the ass now, Dan said from the beginning he was agreeable to whatever. Yes. So now he's in this position. Facebook is off the table. We both agree that Dan has to change. The question is, to which one?
Yeah, but so one way or the other, I'm going to piss one of you off. Like you say consensus?
We've both agreed to change with love.
Okay. All right. So
be our arbiter, Dan.
I'm trying to think this out, but realistically,
be our arbor day.
My heart is just saying one thing over and over and over again, and that is I would rather have an Instagram over a TikTok. So if I have to be the deciding person in this, then I'm going with Instagram.
I will not fucking do it.
You son of a bitch.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bracketology, the podcast that definitively decides all things tournament bracket style. I am the co-host, a co-host, the first co-host, a starting co-host. My name's Scott Grubb.
I am the host, Matt. Yep, I'm the host. You're my co-host, bitch.
And as always, saving the best for last, I'm Dan Default.
We have a lot of unresolved issues we need to talk through off air. This week, we are so excited to kick off spoopy season. Yeah, you heard me right. With haunted... What did we call it? No, I forgot.
Oh, son of a bitch.
It's been a week since we talked about it.
The Horror
Icon Championship. Woo! What do we got going on? How do we break down this bracket, Matt?
Horror icons. Horror icons come in all shapes and sizes, and we have left out all of the things that do not have a face. So there's no Necronomicon. There is no machete.
Hold on, wait a second. Does the Blob have a face?
Yeah, right? At some point. Doesn't have a face.
Anyway.
All right. Anyway, horror icons.
The Necronomicon totally has a face, by the way.
It actually,
There's a face on the book.
All right, look, all of these things are people, or they're played by people, or they're demons, or something else.
The Blob is not.
Yeah. Also, the shark is not people.
He has a name, Dan.
Hey, what are our
played by a person?
What are our categories?
Fuck all of you. Welcome to spooky season. It is Halloween times. We have 4 categories on the east side. Universal monsters, which is a generic term. I am not using it as the type of movie studio that created these types of monsters. But traditional monsters, universal monsters. We also have slashers on the west side of the bracket. So lots going on there. On the west or east side, paranormal.
The other east side.
Yeah.
The farther west side, paranormal and creatures. So
If we roll back the tape, I think he said east side the first time too.
He did.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there's been a already mix up here, but that's okay. So Universal Monsters, Paranormal, Creatures, and Slashers. Those
that's
are
correct.
our 4.
Those are our 4 divisions of horror icons for the championship of Horror Icon Championship.
And I feel like we should clarify what the parameters are for
should
our
we?
selections.
Should we? It's not objects. It's not people, apparently.
No, but what qualifications do we look for to say which one is better than the other? Because I feel like there are going to be a lot of passionate fans about these categories. So we need to make it crystal clear from the beginning what we're judging our votes on.
Yeah, mine is on my gut.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with my heart, which, based on the amount of bacon I've had, is slightly clogged because of my gut. So they're very closely linked.
Yeah, what's your classification?
I mean, I was thinking about like survivability,
Nope, too
scariest.
scientific. Fuck
Okay.
Note that
I'm
none of
just
us said we were
kidding,
going to use our brains. None of us said that.
Yeah,
kid
well,
you,
I
kid you.
did, and clearly I'm in the minority.
What are you?
here.
What are you actually judging this on, Dan?
Again, survivability and scare factor.
Yeah, I guess to you,
Which
what,
one scares the shit out of me the most?
to you, what makes a horror icon?
Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to. And we joke, we're friends. We've been
Kinda.
We're testing that. We've been testing that lately.
Yeah, so it is the most horror icon-y without saying the most horror icon-y. I wanted to change the naming format a little bit. And by I mean we.
Yeah. But no,
really,
I agree. Dan's onto something. Is it survivable? How terrifying is it? Like, if you're in a closet and this is on the outside of it looking for you, how terrifying is that? Like, there's certainly things to consider, right, in this conversation.
And I think the other part is that is life experiences with that icon, right? Like, you know, if you've been possessed, that's probably scarier than not being possessed.
I would say any of these are scarier than not being.
Yeah.
All right, where are we starting?
Well, I think we're gonna start.
This is why he's not the host.
No, I'm the host. Shut up.
All right, we should start. We'll kick things off on the Universal Monster side, and then we'll move over to the paranormal side. So we'll start on the west side of the bracket. We'll finish on the east side of the bracket, and that's how we'll do it.
Yeah, so in the Universal Monsters, let's go ahead and start there with our matchup, The Mummy versus Mr. Hyde. We've got Wolfman versus Frankenstein's monster, Dracula versus the creature from the Black Lagoon, and Phantom of the Opera versus the Invisible Man. All of these were ranked by creepiness and how much money they've made as a property.
Okay, so franchise value, basically.
Basically, yeah,
Okay.
kind of what it comes down to. Let's start with The Mummy versus Mr. Hyde. So specifically, Mr. Hyde is not Dr. Jekyll. It is the scary one of the two. But the Mummy is a creepy fucking mummy.
Great definition.
Look, here's the thing. This is the worst possible bracket for me because I am terrified of things. I don't like being scared. Now, what I will say, I'll watch all the things on the west side of this bracket. The east side.
All of them?
Yeah. Not saying that I have watched them all, but I would.
Yeah.
I think the Phantom of the Opera is probably too much for him.
All right,
But we're talking about The Mummy and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Mummy and Mr. Hyde. Which one's more terrifying to run into, I guess?
I think, to me, Mr. Hyde has like a chance of reverting back to Dr. Jekyll, right? He does revert back to Dr. Jekyll. The Mummy is going to be the Mummy. It's going to have all of its powers. It's going to be damn near impossible to kill. So if it's coming at you, it's not a matter of like trying to get away long enough until Mr. Hyde calms the fuck down. It's, can you survive? I think of these two, there's an easy vote for me.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. When I think of the Mummy, first off, I always found it weird that like the Mummy is its own specific classification because it's just a zombie that's been wrapped in toilet paper. Like it's a zombie. That's what it is.
But it also has like powers. Like it's not just
the old school like traditional classic Universal monster. I know obviously Brendan Fraser version does, but does the traditional classic Mummy have powers other than being a zombie wrapped in toilet paper?
As far as I'm aware, yes, because the Brendan Fraser is a remake from the movie from the 40s, I think. 40s or 50s is when the original Mummy came out. And it does. I mean, it's steeped in magic and it's steeped in it's a zombie because it's basically immortal. And it just went to sleep for a really long time. My argument for both of these is that they're both based on true events in a way, right? Like Mr. Hyde is the personification of the dual personality of man, basically. You know, you have the good and you have the evil, and it's just manifesting in a way with Mr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll's potion that changes him. The Mummy, based on Egyptian history, ancient Egyptian history, where people would, when they died, especially people of wealth, were mummified, for lack of a better way of putting it, and put curses on their tombs and their pyramids and things like that. It's generally considered that the pharaohs, the people that were the ones most mummified or most frequently mummified, were essentially chosen by the gods and given mystical powers. So there are, I don't know, I think both of these are scary.
Yeah. I'm going to...
The Mummy has magic spells. It can hypnotize you. And this is from the original Mummy movie.
When was that?
It can steal organs and the flesh of those who free him. It can also cause a solar eclipse, and it has necrokinesis. So with the aids of the spells, it can resurrect the dead. You know what Mr. Hyde can do? None of that shit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know that it was really ever much debate in this one. I think when I think Mr. Hyde, I think of a classic novel that goes over like the duality of man, struggle with addiction, loss of self. Not so much a horror icon. The Mummy, though, again, even if it's down to my simplified explanation of being a zombie wrapped in toilet paper, that's still more terrifying than a dude who can't stop himself from drinking his magic potion he made.
Well, I agree. I would agree with you for a lot of points in that I think the horror for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and in that story is very much internalized, whereas the horror for the Mummy is very much external. And there's a reason that the Mummy's number one on this list, because the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, even if it's based on Jack the Ripper or other like terrifying serial killers from, long ago, it doesn't have much staying power in pop culture that the Mummy does. The Mummy's been remade multiple times.
Well, and it's not just, we're talking about the Mummy, but the idea of a mummy is again, entirely more culturally relevant. Kids today know what a mummy is far before they know what a Mr. Hyde is, or for many of the other things on this list for that matter.
Yep.
So,
all right. So official vote, Mummy?
Mummy.
Unanimous. The Mummy moves on. What's next?
Up next we have... Go ahead. I just set it up.
Up next we have Wolfman versus Frankenstein's monster.
I already said the up next we have part.
Sorry.
All right, the Wolfman versus Frankenstein's monster. Now, I do want to point out, with the Wolfman, I named him the Wolfman on this bracket, but I feel like all werewolves fit in this category.
Including Teen Wolf?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, I feel like it is. The Wolfman's just the progenitor of what the modern day werewolf is kind of considered in a lot of ways. But the original Wolfman is, in and of itself, very much classic and bred all of these other ideas into Twilight and into Teen Wolf and into the TV show Teen Wolf and everything else. And in a lot of cases is an uncontrollable monster, right? Like the Wolfman is somebody who cannot control their urges and just wants to kill. Frankenstein's monster,
It's just a misunderstood soul.
he's just a misunderstood soul.
Soul-ish.
Yeah,
Misunderstood. So
that's the thing when we're having this debate against these two. It's really hard for me to look at Frankenstein's monster, even though the image of Frankenstein's monster is very popular. You see it everywhere. But Frankenstein's monster, at the end of the day, didn't ask to be created. It's very misunderstood. People fear it because it looks different, and it acts out in rage accordingly. Because A, it's dealing with the fact that it's just been brought back to life. B, it's super lonely because it's the only one until the bride of Frankenstein comes along. It's the only one of its kind, and it really just wants to be left alone. Like, one of these is going to actively try to kill you. The other one, you have to, antagonize
But to
get it to kill you.
Though, Wolfman didn't ask to be created and is also lashing out. I mean...
That's
yeah,
true.
but it's more primal lashing
exactly.
out.
One of which, Wolfman is going to actively hunt you down and try to kill you. And as if that isn't enough, Wolfman also has the ability to make you a werewolf, right? So then you're bound to that horribleness, right? Let's say you did come after Frankenstein's monster with pitchforks and, torches or whatever, and it killed you. That's it. You're dead. You're toast. It smashed you into the ground like a hammer drives a nail. That is the end of your story. You run up against a Wolfman, you have the chance, if it doesn't completely decimate you, to have to live like that and to have to desire the taste of human flesh. This is another kind of easy, to me, easy choice.
I don't know. See, and I think this is where we put ourselves in a tough spot with the renaming convention here a little bit, because you make valid points where the Wolfman, again, given the lore, we're thinking supernatural, we're thinking, dare I say, Twilight, whatever. If you, worst case scenario, impacted by a Wolfman, you also become a Wolfman, and that is pretty terrifying. But when I think about Icon, I also think about the cultural familiarity, right? The frequency with which that character might show up in references, for example. If I go into a Spirit Halloween today in what used to be a Bed Bath & Beyond 3 weeks ago, then I'm going to see a lot more of Frankenstein's monster imagery than I will of Wolfman's. And that's been true for decades. It's a more common Halloween decoration. It's a more common costume. It's more common on apparel. It is a more iconic image in that way. Is Wolfman potentially more terrifying and dangerous? Yeah, but only within its fictional universe. I feel like Frankenstein's monster is just a more iconic symbol of spoopy season.
Do you keep saying spoopy?
Don't worry about it.
Okay. I have to disagree with you for two reasons. One,
you don't have to.
Wolfman is based on werewolves, right? That's where the whole idea of Wolfman came from, was the folk tales and cryptid that is the werewolf. Werewolves are everywhere, right? We just named a bunch of different series and TV shows and movies that have werewolves in them. When you say werewolf, people will automatically think of one of those things. An image will pop to their head. Frankenstein's monster is often just mistakenly called Frankenstein. And that bugs the snot out of me, and I think that takes away from the iconic image.
You know, people still know what you're talking about.
I'd also argue against that. I think that taking its creator's name, it has supplanted the creator in people's minds and made it more of an icon.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold people's stupidity about the fact that it's Frankenstein's monster against the monster himself.
This is not a hill we want to die on.
No, not at all.
You.
Just for reference, by the way, if you search the word werewolf on Spirit Halloween's website, you get 40 results. If you search Frankenstein, you get 48. It is close. It is close. But Frankenstein does edge him out.
Can I get your votes then? Because I think that.
But is that 8 more?
Matt, what about
Spirit of Halloween?
What are your thoughts?
I want to be the last vote because I think I know where your votes are. But
okay, well, mine is Frankenstein's monster,
and mine is correctly with werewolf.
With the Wolfman. It's not werewolf on the bracket. It's the Wolfman.
Yeah, the Wolfman
specifically. So. I feel like this battle comes down to, in the title itself, right? Horror icon. Frankenstein's monster easily has the victory in icon, in my eyes. To Scott's point, it is everywhere. You can get a Pez dispenser of Frankenstein's monster. I do think, again, going back to what I just said, it's supplanted its creator by taking its name to the point where it is now colloquially known, I think I said that right for the first time in a long time, known as just Frankenstein. The Wolfman, however, wins it easily with horror. So I think it really comes down to what is the more important part of this. Is it horror or is it icon? And it's difficult because it is spoopy season. And that makes me want to lean towards horror. And I'm going to vote the Wolfman forward. This is much closer because I think Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster is very much the icon.
But at the end of the day, we're trying to determine an icon, right? Don't we want this bracket not to be what's scariest, but determining what is an icon? No, we want this bracket to be the grandest, biggest thing that we can possibly make it out to be. And that is not horror and scary. It is icon.
To a point, yes, but I feel it's got to be both. It has to be both. And to me, the Wolfman is still much of an icon. The fact that it has 40 results on Spirit Halloween alone kind of it gives it a bump. It's not quite as high as Frankenstein's monster.
On Amazon, by the way, the difference is 1,000 Wolfman, 3,000 Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
Amazon. Just throwing it out there.
But I am going to vote the Wolfman because I think that it is iconic enough, but it also has the horror aspect, whereas Frankenstein's monster, and we've talked about this, is essentially a misunderstood character.
And I would argue that Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, was the real monster.
Yeah.
You fucking nerd.
So on that note, the Wolfman moves on. What is our next matchup, Scott?
Dracula versus Creature from the Black Lagoon.
All right. So I don't think that we can talk about horror icons at all and not mention Dracula. Right? It's Dracula. Like, you want to talk about something that ups or one-ups Frankenstein's monster in the iconography, I feel like that's vampires.
Yeah, I think we can be respectful of our listeners' time here. I'm just going to go ahead and vote Dracula. Like, there's not a debate for me on this one.
It feels wrong to have left the Creature of the Black Lagoon off this list because it is iconic in a lot of ways. But
there's many Scooby-Doo episodes that we wouldn't have if it wasn't for the Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Let alone fucking Aquaman's whole rogues gallery is basically just reskinned versions of the Creature of the Black Lagoon. But it's not Dracula. It's not
I totally
vampires. So Dracula for me. Dan?
Yeah, it's Dracula, 100%.
All right. So, hey, we can come to a consensus on some things pretty quickly. That gets us to our last matchup for the Universal Monsters. Phantom of the Opera versus the Invisible Man.
this again comes down to that same argument. Like, is it icon that we're going for, or is it the horror aspect? Because to me, Phantom of the Opera is definitely more iconic than The Invisible Man, but The Invisible Man is much scarier, it, than the Phantom of the Opera.
As being the person who was on the opposite side of this argument before, when we were talking Wolfman and Frankenstein's monster, I'm now going to completely flip my position and agree with you. Phantom of the Opera is not that scary. I mean, it's confined to a pretty specific location that I've never been to, and being realistic, will probably never go.
And confined to a pretty specific victim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas The Invisible Man, I don't know if you guys ever saw the Kevin Bacon version of that movie. It's the only one that I've ever watched. That's some scary. I mean, we've talked before about the evil villain origin capabilities of choosing invisibility as a superpower. Invisible Man is pretty fucked up.
So I have only ever seen one. Oh, maybe it is Hollow Man is the Invisible Man
with Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
That's the one I've seen.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember because he's invisible for most of the movie.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
That scene where he goes invisible, though, pretty jarring.
Did you see him in that movie?
Well, before he went invisible, yeah.
I don't know enough about the Phantom of the Opera to argue for it. It is number 2 on the list for a couple of reasons, but the biggest one is just the replayability and how much money it's earned. Because not only is it a movie, right? It's a stage show. It is a musical. It is, an actual opera, I'm sure. The scale is really big. So from an icon perspective, but The Invisible Man, I don't find it that scary, but I do agree. I think it gets my vote as well. So that,
it could be standing behind you right now.
Yeah. See, that's the thing for me. The Phantom of the Opera, right? Eric has no magical powers. He is very smart. He was a trained assassin.
Did you just look up the name of the Phantom of the Opera?
No, I know the name of the Phantom of the Opera. He is tortured and, disfigured, but he's in a very specific location and he is a normal person. The Invisible Man is also a normal person, but think about the reality. If he wanted to off you, no video camera would pick him up. He could, in theory, leave fingerprints, but how the hell would they find him? You would not be able to see him coming. They would not be able to see him leaving.
He could be coming on you right now, and you'd have no idea.
You just feel something wet, and that's it.
I'm pretty sure that's a scene in Hollow Man. It might be deleted extra scenes. I don't know. What's your vote, Dan?
Invisible Man. All
right, me too.
So it is another consensus, another unanimous vote. The Invisible Man moves on. So in the next round for Universal Monsters, the Mummy will take on the Wolfman, and Dracula will take on the Invisible Man.
And so now we jump across the bracket to the east side, paranormal.
So I'm going to start this one by just saying this is my least favorite bracket or part of this bracket division. I, as a man, right, in my mid to late 30s, mid 30s currently, I am terrified of being scared. Like, I do not like being scared at all. I hate jump scares. But I like watching other people get scared.
I love playing horror video games with you.
Matt, the door behind you just moved a little bit. Was that Ollie?
Listen, bitch. The main reason behind that hatred comes from this category. And it's not that it's paranormal, but it's that those movies tend to have the jump scares, right? They tend to have the things that are hiding in the dark and waiting to pop out at you. Like, one of my early... Look, we're going to go on a little Matt story time for just a second. One of my early core memories... There are 2 parts to it. One, I was at a friend's house. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. Like, I was young. And the fact that I remember this is amazing. So there are two parts. One that I remember is that we used to hang out under his deck with a thing of salt, and I would just pour salt in my hand and then eat it. But the second part was that I don't know who the friend is. The second part is that at night, his dad would watch movies. And one of the nights that I was staying over at, I'm not cutting this out. Both Scott and Dan turned their cameras off because they're not listening to me.
I'm listening. I had a
totally
booger. I had to
listening.
pick my nose real quick. I didn't want it on camera. Okay. Now we've
So-
had to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm leaving it all in. So, anyway, we were up at night. His dad was watching. Oh, he was being serious.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that.
I'm not being a dick. I'm not trying to not listen
thought
to
that
you.
was your
I had a boogie. I had to take care of it. I put a little boogie in that tissue.
We went out while his dad was watching. We went out to the living room, like snuck out, and he was watching Leprechaun.
I can see where that
Nothing
would be upsetting
has
for.
scared me more in my life than that movie when I'm a fucking toddler, basically. I'm a preschooler and I'm watching Leprechaun. And anyway, paranormal is my least favorite division. Where do you guys want to
Did
start?
you watch the Paranormal Activity movies?
Yeah, no.
Dude. Oh.
Look, here's the thing. I don't go into those movies because I know how much I'm going to hate them.
I gotta
this
tell you,
is
okay.
similar to vegetables.
Spoiler alert for Paranormal Activity 2. One of my favorite scenes from any horror movie ever is in Paranormal Activity 2. It is a scene that is shot from like a security camera overlooking a kitchen. There's an island in the middle of the kitchen, and you can kind of see the living room off in the distance, right? And this person walks into frame, and they're having a conversation with someone off frame. And they pour themselves a cup of coffee, and they walk over with their coffee mug, and they set it on the end of the kitchen island, and they open the newspaper, and they're sitting there reading it, and they mess with the coffee mug again, and then they're sitting there reading their paper, and they're having a conversation while they're doing this, and they mess with the coffee mug again. And the whole time, the director of the movie is just getting you to focus on that coffee mug, because you know, as a viewer of Paranormal Activity, that coffee mug is about to go flying across the kitchen, and you cannot wait. And it builds up all this anticipation because the coffee mug is right in the center of the frame, and they keep messing with it. And you're so focused on it. And then all of a sudden, boom, every fucking cabinet in the kitchen flies open, and plates and shit just come flying everywhere, and the coffee mug doesn't budge. And it is my favorite scene from any movie because it is so well crafted to set the viewer up for failure. And it's a masterpiece in my mind.
Yeah, I'm good without. So our first matchup, I'll get in. Fuck this. Fuck it all. Our first matchup, Annabelle from the Conjuring series versus Pinhead from the Hellraiser series. So for those of you who are uninitiated, Annabelle's a creepy ass little girl doll that is haunted or possessed by a fucking demon from hell or something. And then Pinhead is a demon from hell, surprisingly. So he is a Cenobite, one of many. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Cenobite? What, didn't that used to be an item at Burger King?
No.
Oh, Cineminis, my bad.
Yeah. A Cenobite. There are many, and I believe that their purpose is to torture people.
I don't think Dan's an expert in this category.
I'm not, but I have seen Hellraiser and the subsequent sequels. Not all of them, but enough. And to me, again, this is another situation where it feels like a pretty easy choice. Like Annabelle is confined to the doll. So if you have that doll, you're kind of fucked. But everybody who doesn't have that doll, totally okay, right? It might hurt the property values of your house if your neighbors have it, but that's about the extent unless that doll is in your house. Pinhead, on the other hand, is a priest from hell. He has teleportation. He's invulnerable. He has like telekinesis. He can manipulate, the molecules of the earth. Like there's nothing that he can't do to torture you. And if we're talking about iconic, the visage, the symbol of Pinhead with all those pins is so synonymous with spoopy season. It's hard to deny.
Possibly from 1986 to 1998, but not so much anymore. I mean, Hellraiser's not the icon that they used to be. Not compared to Annabelle. More people today are going to know who Annabelle is than who Pinhead is.
Yeah, I think the other argument is that not the same, but Annabelle is based on like real quote unquote events, right? With the people that hunted go like she exists. Annabelle the doll, it's just a Raggedy Ann doll, I believe.
Yeah.
It exists and it is in like a museum of fucking haunted shit. I we need to continue.
I think for me, and I'm going to have the same argument with our very next matchup as well. For me, one of the things that I think brings Annabelle down on this list a little bit is that her weakness is a wood chipper. You know, like put that fucking doll through a wood chipper and boom, problem solved. Like it can't crawl around and chase you or anything anymore if it's in a bajillion pieces and there's, stuffing all over your front lawn. You can't put Pinhead in a wood chipper.
And even if you did, it wouldn't hurt him.
I do think today Annabelle is closer to what we would call an icon just from a familiarity and like recognizable standpoint. And if we're talking about the, again, very heavy quotations here, real life aspect of it being a Raggedy Ann, well then of course it's more visually recognizable. But if you were to hold up a Raggedy Ann doll, people are going to say, oh, that's Raggedy Ann, not, oh, that's Annabelle.
So sorry.
You're good. I think Pinhead had a longer... I don't think he's an icon so much anymore, but I think he had a longer tenure as one. And I think he's more horrific.
So there's...
Agreed.
I think I'm going to throw this argument out before we get to the official votes. According to the very scientific Quora.com...
Always a trusted site.
Why can't you bury or destroy the Annabelle doll? And the first response... which has 6 whole upvotes.
Ooh.
Within the universe of the movies, for the same reason you can't bury or destroy John Rambo. It's theoretically possible, but everyone who's tried has discovered that his unwillingness to cooperate with the process results in certain roadblocks.
It's a doll. Wrap it in duct tape and then bury it. How is it going to resist?
The other argument is that since it is a famous... or I'm sorry, not famous, since it is a possessed thing, possessed by a demon, the answer would be that if the object that is possessing the demon is destroyed, then that means that the demon is escaped from its possessed thing and can then possess something else.
I'll grant them that. That makes sense. Right.
And I think
don't think that tracks in supernatural logic. If something is possessed by a demon, the cause of a ghost, right? Destroying it gets rid of that thing.
Well, but that's
even in the literal show Supernatural, if the vessel is destroyed, the demon can escape. The demon has to be killed with a magic blade in order for the demon itself to die.
Now, there are 2 things to keep in mind, because I think that's exactly what you were saying, Dan, but you're thinking of ghosts and spirits, which is when the item that it's tied to is destroyed or the event is resolved or what have you, then that spirit is released. But Annabelle's not a spirit. Annabelle is a demon.
Yeah.
And so with that being the case, I mean, I think personally, as creepy as Pinhead and the rest of the Cenobites are, I think Annabelle is the bigger horror icon because it scares the shit out of me to even think about. And it's newer.
All right, so official vote.
I'll go Annabelle.
Official vote, Dan.
Pinhead.
Damn, you really did throw a twist in there with the fact that even if you destroy the doll, the demon could repossess something else. Because that is how, again, in lore, demons work.
And even if you excised it, right? Even if it goes back to hell, it can come back potentially.
But I'm going to give you that creepy visual of the little girl doll. To me, is creepier than the visual of Pinhead. To me, Pinhead looks campy 80s because he is campy 80s. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say Annabelle.
All right. Annabelle moves on. That may be the first time in my life that I've convinced one of these 2 to believe what I say.
I think you changed my mind a little bit. Also, I really just wanted to see Dan's grumpy head shake again.
All right. What's our next matchup?
Next matchup, we have Chucky versus Samara, also from The Ring. I have a story about Chucky that I absolutely love. So one of my best friends, we were growing up. We were young. His younger brother was much younger than us, like 4 or 5 years younger than us. We were too young to be watching Child's Play. So, of course, we made his youngest brother, Andrew, watch the movie with us. Andrew also had a My Buddy doll. My Buddy, by the way, was the, inspiration for the Chucky doll. Um, so obviously, the movie scared the shit out of Andrew. We waited until he finally went to bed. He did not want to leave our sides. When he finally went into bed, we grabbed his My Buddy doll. We snuck up to his door. We opened it up and we threw it at him. And I was almost kicked out of that house.
You fucking should have been. How
forever.
dare you?
Dan might be part of that lower 20% that gets raptured. Throwing it back to past episodes. That's a throwback. If you didn't listen to that episode, go back.
Listen to it. That being said, Chucky, he is a terrible person that did a seance to escape the police and put himself into a doll. Theoretically, he's immortal. They have tried a lot of things to kill him. But it's also become like super campy, like The Bride of Chucky. That movie is.
Well, there's even a Chucky TV show now, right?
Yeah, there's a Chucky TV show came out a couple years ago, I think.
And they did try to reboot Chucky with Mark Hamill voicing the doll. But I also think that flopped. When it comes to icons, I think that Chucky is iconic to an extent. But like you all were saying for Pinhead, I think that time frame has passed. The Ring, I don't think has had nearly as long of a run as Chucky had, but it is fucking terrifying. Like the visual of that girl crawling out of the TV gives me the heebie fucking jeebies.
Yeah, The Ring, so Chucky, I agree with you. Chucky kind of started out as like a really kind of creepy scenario, and I think it's been redone in more successful horror ways, right? Even like with the Megan shit, and it's not exactly the same, but similar-esque.
Yeah, close enough.
But The Ring, this is the beginning of me saying I'm not going to watch scary movies anymore is after going and seeing The Ring. Like, it scared the fuck out of me. And not only was it incredibly iconic in America and, with English, with an English movie with Sarah Michelle Gellar, it comes from I believe, Japanese movie that is like the most iconic horror thing in Japan outside of fucking Godzilla. The Ring easily moves on as iconic for me. I have another story, but I'll save it for later.
It's interesting because to me, this is like almost the same debate we just had, right? We're talking about a possession of a inanimate object, which again, susceptible to wood chippers, versus something that is not limited to a specific space. In the last one, I put Annabelle through because the visual of that doll face to me is creepier. Chucky is not so much. I also had a My Buddy doll growing up. Chucky's not so much as creepy, I think, in the face. I think, again, because of the kind of campy nature that they leaned into with Chucky over the years, they added some comedic elements that I guess just kind of downplayed his horror factor for me.
Yeah.
But I still have I put a lot of weight on that word icon. And to me, I think Chucky is, out of everything that's on this list, outside of some of maybe the Universal monsters, Chucky is one of the more recognizable. It's one of the more marketable. It's one of the stronger fandoms for people out there who particularly like a character. Chucky is one of the stronger ones on this list. Samara from The Ring has more if we're talking about living in that universe as if it was real and the ability to be haunted by that thing, then Samara has a greater ability to get to you. If Chucky were real, then we only have to worry about where that one particular doll is. But from an icon standpoint, from a visual and a recognizable and a marketable standpoint, for me, I think Chucky's more iconic.
Also, keep in mind 2 things. I didn't know that girl's name was Samara until we were putting this bracket together. So I don't know if that hurts the iconness for her. But 2, in order to deal with her, you have to watch a cursed VHS tape. And here's the thing. I don't even own a VHS player.
I haven't seen a VCR in years.
I'm pretty safe, I feel like, from that.
Fuck off, first of all. Like, this is Jumanji rule. Like, it will evolve. It's not...
So now there's a
it's going to come on your TikTok?
It's on Netflix.
But it doesn't have to be... It's not the tape that is the thing that is moving her curse on, right? It is her perpetuating it.
You finished watching
the whole premise of that is that you watch the videotape, and if you don't make somebody else watch it within 7 days, you die.
You watch the video on Netflix, and then you get an automated email from them. You're going to die in 7 days. That's the 2024 version. Call. It's an automated email.
I don't know. I think that it evolves. And not to argue with you too much, Dan, but I think that as time evolves, it also evolves, and the videotape becomes a DVD if it's not dealt with. It becomes, a streamed video, a viral video.
So a TikTok.
In a way, they could
or
easily
an
make
Instagram reel.
Look, my vote is The Ring. What is your? My vote's The Ring. Scott's vote is Chucky. Dan, what is your vote for this
one? I'm gonna have to go with Chucky. I think Scott was right in the fact that it is more iconic, even if it's less horror. If you walked up to somebody and you said, "Hey, do you know who Samara is?" They're probably not going to know. But if you ask them, "Hey, do you know who Chucky is?" They're probably going to know.
All right. So that moves Chucky forward into our doll bowl.
I know. I'm pretty excited about that.
Next round.
Yeah.
Who are the next 2 people you're scared of, Matt?
Okay. So the next matchup is Pennywise versus Candyman. Now, Pennywise is the clown from It, which is really a demon that lures children into the fucking gutter and forest and stuff. And anyway, and Candyman is a man made of bees. Everything that I just said scares the living shit out of me. I never watched It.
You should also avoid saying his name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not an idiot. I know he's not going to come out at me. I never watched it, nor will I ever, because I hate clowns. I hate everything about clowns. They scare the shit out of me. This is a deep-rooted fear. With Candyman, again, I hate bees. I don't like bees. He's a scary person. He's also a demon, I believe, of some kind, or maybe a vengeful spirit. But either way, I have seen Candyman, and that was the beginning of my life being scared shitless from things.
I mean, I get it. A person made of bees sounds... I was going to say... No, it sounds dumb. Pennywise, though, again, talking about the iconography and the symbolism and the recognizability, I think this is a pretty easy debate for me. Pennywise definitely comes out on top in that conversation. If we focus on the horror aspect of it, again, you're talking about a giant pile of human-shaped bees, whereas Pennywise is a shapeshifter. Yes, it presents itself primarily as a clown that lives in the sewers, but it is not by any means limited to that. It can be anything. It could be any one of the 3 of us right now, and we'd have no fucking clue.
This is not the time to fuck around.
It could be Ollie for all you know.
It could be Ollie.
Matt is
in
not.
your bed.
Matt is not going to sleep tonight. He's going to be so mad. We've said before, and I don't remember what bracket or when or whatever, but we've talked about this before. For me, the idea of a shapeshifter is ultimately the most terrifying.
It was creepy cryptid.
Creepy cryptids, yes. Yeah. Because the idea of a shapeshifter is one of the most ultimately terrifying things, because it could be anywhere at any time. It could be a loved one. It could be a colleague at work. You'd have no fucking clue that it was
dog.
Yeah, you'd have no clue that it was staring you right in the face until it was too late. From an icon perspective, from a horror perspective, I'm not standing in a dark mirror saying Candyman's name multiple times. I don't have to worry about it from that perspective. That is part of the lore, right? I'm not making that up.
Well, it's not standing in front of a mirror, but
it's just saying his name.
Pennywise wins this one easy.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, when you're talking about pure icon, like, that image of that clown's face has been iconic for decades, since Tim Curry did it. In the original version, even before that, in It, the novel by Stephen King, it's terrifying, right? And then
kudos to Skarsgård too. There's very few instances where I will say reboots do better, but that first It movie, the second one, hot take, hot garbage. I did not like the second one. I did not like the conclusion of it. But yeah, anyway.
And plus, it feeds on fear. And it's terrifying as shit. So, Pennywise gets my vote on both counts. Though, I will say, if you all haven't looked into the story of where Candyman came from and what it was based on, you should.
Some homework for you, Matt.
Yeah.
Not gonna. So it's irrelevant. I do think, so I have the experience, the life experience with Candyman, having watched it. I haven't watched Pennywise for the simple reason that I will not sleep for days, and I have a heart condition. So, yeah, Pennywise moves on.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to lie to you. Knowing you as well as I do, there's not a single thing about the It movies that you would enjoy whatsoever. Those you would lose sleep if you were to watch one of them.
Yeah, I'm good without it.
Up next, Pazuzu from The Exorcist versus Bagul from Sinister.
Okay, so going along the theme of talking about the times that Matt's been scared shitless, the movie Sinister is the reason that I literally will not watch movies now. It is the last watch scary movies. It is the last scary movie I saw in theaters, and I said I'm never watching a scary movie in theaters again. This is not happening. It scared me to death for one particular part, and it's at the end of the movie, so spoiler alert. The end of the movie, the credits begin to roll, and you're like, all right, everything's done. I'm finally over with this shit. I've sweat 7 pounds of water weight off of me from being scared. And then the fucking Bagul pops out, but he doesn't just come up and he doesn't just appear. He pops from the side, and it's just his head. And it's just like, ah! And oh my God.
It wasn't all sweat. Some of it was also tears and urine.
It's a possibility. So a movie truly terrifies me. And part of it is the actual story as well, right? Like somebody or a demon infests a house. It's possessing a house. It's scaring the hell out of a Ethan Hawke for weeks on end. And it's just, the whole idea scares me. The Exorcist, here's the thing. I could watch The Exorcist. I'm not gonna, but I could, and I could survive. But it is one of the most iconic things in terms of horror is Reagan on the bed vomiting the pea soup and head spinning around, and your mother sucks cocks in hell. Like, all of the things that go into that have spread throughout pop culture.
And that poor actress, like, they had her on this board, like, shaking the shit out of her. And that isn't even the worst part about the filming. Like, people died in the filming of that movie. When it comes to, like, being an icon, there are few like horror movies as iconic as The Exorcist.
I want to put in a frame some reference for you here, though, Matt. Do you think that the difference between your ability to watch The Exorcist versus your ability to watch Sinister is a difference in the fact that one of those movies was made in 1973 and the other one was made in 2012,
Yeah.
and we have a stark difference in what, as a society, we are willing to discuss, watch, and ingest in that way compared to, you know.
It is a large possibility that the time frame in which those movies came out determines how likely I am to watch the movie. But I'd say more in I know what happens in The Exorcist. I didn't know what happened with Sinister. So like going into it knowing what's going on kind of makes a difference. The Exorcist has seeped in so much to culture in general that everybody knows about it. Even if you haven't,
Sure.
let me rephrase that. Everybody that is an adult knows
Sure.
at least a little bit about The Exorcist.
I'll have to say here a little bit of ignorance on my part. I don't think I've seen Sinister. I think there's this like period of movies where there's a lot of similarity. We see a lot of parody with like Sinister and
The Conjuring
and all that, where there's a lot of similarity. So there's a chance I've seen Sinister and I just don't remember it, but I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a movie that stars Ethan Hawke, so I don't think I've seen Sinister. I know Pazuzu obviously is a demon that possesses the girl. What exactly is Bagul? Is Bagul just a killer?
He is a demon. So Bagul
Bagul is a pagan deity. It's not a demon.
Oh, is it a deity?
Yeah,
Dude,
it's a pagan.
I was fucking crying.
It's a pagan deity that eats children. So think about it as like, a pagan version of Pennywise.
So perhaps this serves as a spoiler alert. I'm picturing a movie in my head. There's a family. They move into a house, and I know that's part of Sinister. Is there a part in this movie where there's like the family's like in the basement trying to get out, and like the mom and the kids are in the basement trying to escape, but they're like boarded up in a way? Is that part of Sinister, or am I thinking of a different movie there? Do you recall Through the Tears and Urine?
To be honest with you, I just Googled Sinister plot and images of Bagul came up, and it literally
that was
gave
enough.
me
Okay.
shivers. Yeah, so Ethan Hawke, he's a true crime writer, so he moves into this house where a murder like takes place, or where this horrible accident happens. He discovers the existence of a snuff film showing the deaths of the family, and that's the biggest thing I remember. Is a big part of that was like a noose hanging from the tree outside the house, that imagery, and that always sticks with me, other than his actual face. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I don't particularly remember that part to it, but
I have just confirmed that I am thinking of The Conjuring in the movie that I'm debating. So I think, again, then kind of we've talked about, and perhaps this is really, again, the frame with which we're judging this whole bracket through. We've gone back and forth about how much does horror weigh versus icon, right? And we talked about, for example, Wolfman and Frankenstein's Monster, we put horror over icon. The horror aspect of Wolfman weighed more than the icon. Whereas Chucky, we said the icon part weighed more. I think this is an instance where it's like Chucky. I think both the monsters are similar to me from a horror perspective. I think they're somewhat on a similar level. I think Bagul, again, benefits from being made in 2012, so the extremism is greater as far as what was able to be shown in film. But from an icon perspective, like you said, Matt, everyone knows what The Exorcist is, right? You can make references about vomiting pea soup and people are going to know what that is. The references in culture to Scary Movie and the spinning heads, and like that all comes from The Exorcist. I think Exorcist wins because its iconic weight is so much heavier than Bagul's.
And there's only been one movie for Sinister and Bagul. The
There's
Exorcist.
a Sinister too.
Oh, well, two. The Exorcist has The Exorcist 1, 2, 3, Beginning, which is a prequel.
Are those
sort
all
of.
Pazuzu?
I don't know if it's all Pazuzu,
I don't know if Sinister 2 is still Bagul. I have no idea.
but it's all, in that same world.
Mhm.
And Matt, I know you'll be excited about this. There is a new Exorcist film coming out in 2026.
Ooh, we should get tickets and go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to be there opening night.
We should
Matt's
have
going to be with us.
We should have a planned Bracketeers screening.
Yeah.
Us and all the Bracketeers.
Rent out the movie theater, put
Go see
Matt
it together.
by himself in the front.
I've got plans that night.
All right. Official vote. I'm saying Pazuzu.
It's same. Pazuzu. It's definitely more iconic.
Yeah. I mean, I think even at the very least, the music at the beginning of The Exorcist is it's way more iconic than Bagul and Sinister. As much as I hate everything about that, I'm literally getting chills down my spine, even just thinking about it. Yeah, it's Pazuzu.
I'm sorry Bagul hurt you, but moving on.
Pazuzu wins.
Look,
I love the fact that Matt is going to have such a hard time sleeping tonight because of this bracket.
How about the fact that when Matt edits this bracket, he's going to be putting images of these things on either side of the bracket, so he has to Google search every single one of them and look at the photos over and over and over again.
Look, I'm literally sweating right now. Like, just I don't think you guys understand.
Matt, we love you, buddy. We appreciate the hard work that you put into this.
We
editing.
really do.
All right, what do we have next week? Actually, hold on. I'm skipping ahead. That completes the paranormal portion of the bracket. So next time we revisit that particular area, we will have Annabelle versus Chucky and the
dolls,
the doll off, and then we'll have Pennywise versus Pazuzu.
The demon off.
The demon off. Yeah, that just sounds like a Russian name. So what do we have next week? Round 1, part 2.
All right. So on the west side of the division, we have the slashers category. Michael Myers versus Norman Bates, Jigsaw versus Freddy Krueger, Ghostface versus Leatherface, The Face Off, and Jason Voorhees versus Hannibal Lecter.
We've also got creatures. So this is pretty much anything else that I couldn't fit into one of the other categories. The Thing versus the Blob. Very specific off.
I like that.
Slender Man versus Predator. Bruce the Shark, which is from Jaws, in case you are uninitiated, versus the Other Mother from Coraline, and the Xenomorph versus the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
That movie also fucked me up, guys. I don't think you understand.
Jeepers Creepers, or
so visibly uncomfortable. It's great. As usual, we want to thank you all for listening and putting us on in the background as you unpacked your Halloween decorations.
Ooh.
We'll make that one relevant and realistic. As always, you can find us on Bracketology, BRACKETALLOGY, with all of the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook included. We want to thank who we got to thank.
Aaron O'Donnell from Aaron O'Donnell's Music for bringing us our great intro and outro music. Thank you so much, Aaron.
And with that, we've done an episode of a podcast, fellas. Matt, you made it through. Congratulations, you have survived. Look out behind you!
I can see the cold sweat.
You can't do this to me.
He's so mad.
We got fucking 6 weeks of this, all right?
Love you, buddy. I am the first co-host to introduce themselves every time we say our names, and my name is Scott.
I am the adult man crying in the back of the movie theater, Matt Robinson.
And I am
and Dan cut a hole in the bottom of the pop. And this is the guy that cut the hole in the bottom of the popcorn bucket.
Yep, Dan Default.
All right,
Come get your
everybody.
butter.
Boo bye.
Boo bye. Nice.